delighted to say we are joined in the studio by our current Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ciaran Perry. Ciaran, welcome to CouncilMatters.
Thank you very much, making apologies for being late.
Not at all, mate. You know, look, we're in strange times, really, aren't we?
We certainly are.
Yeah. Have they actually announced an election yet?
They did this morning for the 26th February, the last Friday of the month. What
a surprise! What a surprise! Yes. Now, I was just before you came on, I was just saying I saw one of the independent alliance members. He was diligently having his people put up posters down there at the end of the Malahide Road and whatever, so at the very least he was very quick. Ciaran, you're going to be running in Dublin Central. It's going to be a toughie. It's
going to be extremely hard. It's like there's 4 sitting TDs and only 3 seats. So there's a definite loss of a current sitting TD and hopefully an entry of a new challenger like myself.
Yeah, well, the one positive I think you could take out of it is there's an independent there. So there's you could argue there is an independent seat. Tony Gregory had that for a very long time, but I gather people are open to new personalities and new ideas.
Hopefully, and Mick, I believe that there's a possibility of 2 independent seats in the constituency. I think the swing against the government and the swing for a new type of political ideology, political alternative that we're hearing on the doorsteps, hopefully will feed into actually producing 2 independent seats in the constituency.
Can I ask you about that, Ciaran? Because I had an independent councillor in here yesterday on a programme I was doing, and he was saying that he's getting the same sort of feedback, that there's an absolute thirst for change out there. And I said, what real change do you think people want? So what are you getting out there, Ciaran, now?
For the first time ever, Mick, I've run quite a few elections, both general and locals, and for the first time ever, people seem determined for a completely new politics. I don't mean the rubbish talk about tweaking the edges and all that, whereby society and the country is actually run for the benefit of the majority as opposed to the golden circle and their hangers-on. I think people honestly believe there is a possibility of change. They've seen the whole water tax mobilisation where there's been phenomenal numbers on the streets, actually leaving their houses to go out. Ordinary people, not the usual activists like myself who've been at it for years, but actually people who haven't been involved in protesting, in politics ever before. And I think that's a signal that the water tax is, in my opinion, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that, because what I was saying to Councillor Francis Timmins yesterday is that what I'm interpreting, and I used exactly the same thing, the water protests, I said people are getting fed up with the swing towards representative politics and they want to be much more participatory politics. In other words, yes, we're very happy for you to be our voice in certain circumstances, but we also want the politicians or the elected representatives to come, and the voice that you will be articulating will be our concerns. Is that something you're picking up?
Absolutely. People want to give politicians direction as opposed to the other way around, and that there definitely seems to be an engagement there with people in general that I haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm. You're up against a Minister for Transport, and I put up a video a couple of weeks ago and I said, why Pascal O'Donoghue is not a fascist, because fascists make the transport run on time. And I tell you, and the reason why I did this is because I was stuck in Cllr Street, and I'm not joking, it must have taken us about 20 minutes to get around to Dame Street. I mean, what can I say? I mean,
to be honest, it's an indication that we're almost back to where we were during the Celtic Tiger era. Yeah. We see the developers being given a free rein to build almost what they want. We see the traffic building up again, the blockades everywhere, and nothing having been learned previously. And I find that most frightening. Like the selling point, or the apparent selling point from the government parties at the moment, is this alleged stability, when really what they're asking us is to really revert to what happened during the Celtic Tiger era. They don't seem to have learned anything at all.
That's an interesting one. A movie I've been recommending to everybody, and I've been saying to people, if you want to know how the banking crisis happened in Ireland, and if you want to know why we have a homeless problem, look at The Big Short. And it's almost basically what you see in this movie is essentially how the financial markets manipulated the situation. So we ended up with a massive wealth transfer from the poor to the rich. Yeah.
Again, Mick, I haven't seen the film, but what you're saying is proven by the statistics provided by the RSI that the top 10% of wealthy people in the country have actually increased their wealth hugely during the recession. There was no recession for that amount of people or their hangers-on, and people forget that there's a significant cohort of people within this country who have done very well out of the recession. The majority of us haven't.
Be interesting to hear what your view on the recovery is, because I've been perhaps a bit cynical of saying that the recovery, you could argue, is the mugger coming into the guy in the hospital and saying, "You're getting better."
That's an excellent analogum. Excellent for the very reason in that we couldn't have got much worse than where we were a couple of years ago. So the only really way was up. So it's an extremely good point. And again, the recovery that's been claimed by the government is really, questionable. Like we're talking about some sort of international recovery having an effect. We're also talking about a huge amount of the exports from the big multinationals being used to boost our own economy. So it's not an actual localized recovery, and certainly in the local areas, we're not seeing a recovery. The ordinary people are not seeing a recovery.
I'll let you have the last word on it. People have said, recovery, stabilisation and all of that. Other people are then saying it has been incredibly unequal, it's been incredibly unfair. Is that a point you will be emphasising during the election?
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, people on the doorsteps already know that. They don't need me to tell them that. What we're trying to do is offer them the alternative to that, the same failed political system for the last 100 years in this country.
Yeah. Ciaran, you've come up to the activist path as opposed to being cosseted by the political party's path. I think people in these parts of the world, they know you fairly well. Ciaran Perry, running the Dublin Central. We wish you all the best.
Good morning.